Hello everyone and welcome back to Gaming Emporium, where some friends have gathered around the table to talk about some board games. Ross is doing his traditional wave thing, doing
a bit early. You've not even done the introduction yet, so...
No, that's... my name's Luke, that is Ross. There we go, got the waves in. And yeah, we're back doing our top 50 games of all time. We're in a slight rush today because we've got a bit of a time crunch before recording this one, so we're going to speed through. We're going to try anyway. This is the thing, we started off these videos and they were quite compact, less than half an hour sort of thing. And as we've gotten closer to the top end of our list, it's gone a little longer again.
Maybe unsurprisingly, we like to talk about games.
We like to talk about games. We like to talk about our favourite games is the thing that's probably... We did have a long conversation about Keltay a couple of episodes ago where we ended up just rambling on for a lot longer than it probably warranted. But there we go. Anyway, such is life. So let's just dive straight into this and talk about our number 15.
Hey, yeah, so, it's a classic. It's Dominion!
Nice!
So,
the most classic of all the classic deck builders.
Grandfather of deck builders. A game, I don't know, I've always liked since I started playing board games, however long that... 15 years? Maybe longer?
Sounds right.
So since I've started playing games, basically, it's been kind of staple. I only recently picked up my own copy. Thank you, Luke. Yeah, I mean, I just really like it. You have a deck, you're playing cards, you're buying some cards, you're trying to score points, and the core strategy of the game is knowing the right moment to tip from doing things to gaining points, because you don't want to gain too many points early on because they clog up your deck. Yeah, really, just solid. And I'll tell you why I quite like playing about it specifically versus other deck builders is it's stripped back. That it is just a deck builder. There seems to be, and I think it is good because you can't just keep pumping out deck builder after deck builder, but there is definitely a thing of like, deck builder plus this other thing. I'm looking at like Dune, for example, which is like deck builder and a worker placement, and then sometimes it just gets a bit diluted between the two, and you just want to do one or the other.
Well, we talked about this with Arnak, Lost Winds of Arnak.
Yes.
That is a similar deck builder with worker placement that was released at the same time as Dune, which just happened to be one of those things. I really like Dominion as well. I think it's a very good classic deck builder. I mean, it was the original deck builder, right? You've got basically just game points, you've got an action, you've got to buy, you do all the things. You can't say much better than that. I mean, I've got other deck builders I've got lower down the list, like things like Viscount of the West Kingdom, and just going to pick another one, Great Western Trails as another one, and Legendary, Marvel Deck Builder. They're ones I've talked about previously. And they do what they do very, very well. Dominion is a classic for a reason. So it does pretty good. And as you say, it's stripped right back to the bare bones. Because there is a theme, allegedly. Kind of.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's a very quick one. My number 15 is a classic push or luck game. It's not that classic, not the strip back, can't stop kind of thing, but it is one that Ross talked about at one point. Actually, when did you talk about this one? You talked about this. This was your number 28. This is the Quacks of Quedlinburg. This is a really, really fun bag builder, push or luck kind of game where you are potion merchants, effectively, in this town of Quedlinburg. You're buying ingredients to shove into your bag, you draw them out of the ingredients, you throw them into your cauldron, you're trying not to draw too many cherry bombs, which will cause your cauldron to explode, and as far as you can get around the track without pushing and exploding, you can gain more points and more money. What I like about it as a push your luck game is it's not too punishing if you push your luck too far. In the first 4 rounds, I think. After that, you kind of have to be a little bit more strategic because you kind of need to be gaining points and stuff. And even if you do explode, there's a catch-up mechanism, which is these rat tails that, however far you are behind the leader, you gain these number of rat tails, it will help you push further, gain more money, gain more points in the next round afterwards. There are these random events that will happen that will give you things like draw a token out of the bag, gain an upgraded version of that token, or if it's a white, discard it, or buy this token in this particular colour if you want to. And see what happens with it, and you just throw it into your strategy. There are so many different options for each of the different ingredients, the different books that are set up, and I have the Mega Box, which has both the Herb Witches and the Alchemist expansions. I haven't really delved into the Alchemist stuff yet, but the Herb Witches is good because you have these little coins that you can spend to just do one-off powers. You can spend 3 of them throughout the course of the game to trigger one of these powers that will just do something cool, whichever everyone has the opportunity to do so. It's just timing. So, yeah, Crisis Quedlinburg is really good. It's a good game.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I say you probably. I mean, there's so many good games now, but the reason why it's probably not up where it is now is because I don't play it that often. But I do. No. I think the particularly one thing I want to call out is something you mentioned, which was around the strategy behind it. So obviously you've got a set of ingredients, but normally there's quite a good few 2 or 3 kind of options on how you kind of carry that strategy, and they do the ingredients that you're putting in. They all do relatively complement each other in some way, so you can't really go wrong with how you build your bag a little bit. So there's just quite a lot of flexibility in that, which is quite nice. You don't feel like you're, I don't know, you can't really make a mistake, I guess.
Yeah, and it does a nice thing of spoon feeding new ingredients as the game goes along. You don't start with, I think you start with 4 or 5 that are available at the beginning, and then more pop in as the game progresses, which I think is good because it means you can't fill your boots with a really OP item straight away.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's our number 15, so let's go into our number 14s. My number 14, and actually I didn't realise this with Quacks, so this, number 14 and 15 were my 2 and 3 last time we did this list.
Okay, wow.
So these they've dropped a bit, but again, we're going to come into the next, the top 11, 10 of those are new to me games.
Wow, okay.
So that's going to push things a little bit. So my number 14 was my former number 2, and this was the Architects of the West Kingdom. So this is your least favourite of the West Kingdom games, I know that, but it's one of my 3 favourites, I guess, because I like all of them. It's a worker placement game. It's a worker placement game where you are putting out meeples to do different actions, as a worker placement game is. But the strength of the action is based on how many workers are there. So unlike the usual worker placement games where you put a worker out and it's locked out forever, everyone can continue to go to that space. The number of workers you have there increases the action. So you want to go and get some wood. You get wood, 1 for each worker you have there. You can go and get clay. You get 1 clay plus a clay for each worker you have there.
Yes.
Or if you have 2 workers, you can get a gold as you're sort of going through the mining process. And you're going through trying to build these different buildings, recruit townsfolk, which have special powers that will give you ongoing benefits. There's a little bit of asynchronicity that can be played by flipping over your character effectively to have a little difference in your start. You have 20 meeples to play with across the entirety of the game. And if you find that someone's action is getting a little bit too strong, you can just arrest them, throw them into your own jail, and then sell them to the prison for money, which is a bit weird.
Collecting a bounty, maybe? Maybe the better way.
Maybe that's collecting a bounty. That might be the case. But you're basically going to be going and spending resources, building the cathedral, trying to build as much as you can before time runs out and you run out of points. There's a virtue track you can go up, which I know you're going to complain about because that's one of your big gripes about it, that it's not really an evil strategy that you can do. There might be in the expansion, is my go-to response.
It's either that or it's that I've not... just jumping in because you've triggered me now. But it's either that or it's not quite... I've not sussed it out yet. So yeah, like you said, there's a virtue track, right? And the higher up virtue, you get some more victory points, and you also have access to building the cathedral. Because if you drop below a certain virtue, you can no longer build a cathedral because you've done too many black market trades or some other dodgy dealings or something like that. But there doesn't seem to be really I just wish there was an option there where it's you're a pillar of society and you're building and you're contributing towards this cathedral, or you're kind of this. And a criminal mastermind, kind of you're doing some shady dealings. And I wish there was just victory points from either option. And almost actually, the track was 0 at the middle, and then it scaled points either way. So sitting in the middle doesn't score you any points, but committing to being really good or really evil gives you lots of victory points. So that's But maybe I just haven't sussed out what it is. But yeah, it makes me feel like the game's a bit one-dimensional. It's just a race.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. I think they did a little bit more of leaning into that balance when they went to Viscounts of the West Kingdom, for example. There is that sway that you can push it towards ruin or riches, and you can kind of push it the way you want to sort of do that morality aspect of it. You couldn't really do it in Paladins because the theme of that one is your Paladins defending the kingdom. So yeah, maybe they could have done a little bit more with that, but.
I mean, it's the first of the series, right? So, you're right. Yeah. Maybe they did something in the expansion. So,
yeah, that's my 14. What's up for you, Ross?
My 14 is a game that is definitely new to me, relatively new to me, and I have not really had an opportunity to play it really as much as I want. But we have played it recently-ish. a couple of times, is an age contrived. So this is a very... it's essentially a deck. It's essentially an engine builder. Those are the words I'm after. An engine builder where you are a god with some sort of physical presence on the planet. You are trying to influence said planet with energy, and you have this contraption. Well, I've got the fancy edition, which has a very overproduced metal contraption, which is a bit unnecessary, but a bit of fun. Has springs in it. That's all you need to know, really. But you put energy on the top and bottom of this track, and you spend the energy at the bottom to do actions, and then you push the energy at the top out into the world to build wonders or to contribute towards one of the pillars of civilization, or to, I'm trying to think what else, or to buy new tiles so that you build your engine a little bit more efficiently. And so you have all these tiles you're sliding in, they have different values for how much energy you can use at the bottom and then at the top of these tiles. All this good stuff. Really good game. Bit of a point salad-y kind of thing. There's a couple of options you can do. Most of the time it's put at least 3 energy into one of these things to score points or that that sort of stuff. The cumulative, I think, is the word I'm probably after here.
Yeah.
So like the Pillars of Civilization is control multiple of them. One of them is to get at least 2 of your energies off to then trigger some scoring. So there's quite a lot of like, do a little bit of something up to a point and then do a little bit more of something else and then so on and so forth. So yeah, quite good. The teaching curve is it's kind of simple once you get into it, and maybe again it's just that I've not practiced the teach down. Teaching curve's quite tough to do because I think it's just about understanding, and maybe in fact the mechanism makes it more complex on that, because really I've summarized it a second ago, which is energy at the bottom does your actions, energy at the top is what you're pushing out into the world to influence it.
Yeah.
And the machine complicates that because you're sliding stuff in, you're putting energy in, you're like, oh, well, if I do this, what happens to that energy up there? Oh, well, you've used the energy down here to trigger the energy up there. And that is quite simple, but for some reason it just seems to be quite, convoluted maybe.
Well, except it's not always the case, is it? Because you have some elements where you go, well, I'm going to trigger this action, but it pushes energy on this tile over here. So like action 4 will do, I'll spend this energy, but I'm pushing the energy that's in 1 and 2.
Yeah.
For example, and they'll go out into the world, or energy in 1 will trigger energies in 3 and 4. So I can understand that element. I mean, you and I got it relatively quickly.
Yeah.
Because we're pro gamers, obviously.
Pro gamers, yeah, definitely.
But it's a difficult teach, and it's a difficult concept sometimes to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
It's got a very nice board presence. They obviously went all in with the Kickstarter on making things modifiable and customizable for each of the players. To a degree.
So on that a little bit. So I think they were really trialing stuff because on the box, on the insert of the lid, on the inside, you could pick the image that you have. You could pick a message to be printed in there. So there was so much customization on that. But then it stepped away from that. They were like, hey, everyone, vote on like the player colours, basically, on like the player patterns. And then everyone did. And I think everyone selected the top 2 of the best types, but there was no kind of like, okay, from a gameplay standpoint, how does this impact it? Because everyone, say for example, everyone just picked the best purple looking one, and that means you come to play the game and then everyone's character things are just purple basically, and it just all looks really similar. Yeah, they just kind of missed the ball, I think, a little bit on that.
Yeah. I liked it. I'd like... Denise decided she wants to join me because she's not feeling well, bless her, so she's come to join me. I'll push her right down in a second. So yeah, we played it a couple of times really close together, I think, and I think that was it was one time too many for me, personally. At least that close together, and that playthrough was a rough one for us.
It was tough.
For some various reasons. I don't know, it's one I might need to come back to at some point in the future when I've semi-forgotten about it.
Yeah.
But as we were saying, it's got fantastic board presence or table presence.
Yeah,
so it might be
I didn't even talk about the magnetic towers that you construct and stuff. But there's so much to it. There's like so much. Yeah, like I say, it's a beautiful game, to be fair.
Yeah. So yeah, well, more on that another time, I guess. So that's our number 14. Let's go into 13. Whilst I get this pooch back on the floor.
I'll talk whilst you nudge. Well, it's important actually. It's this one because you won't want to care or to talk about this one anyway. So my number 13 is Twilight Imperium, 4th edition specifically.
Yeah, goodbye.
So anyway, I feel like I should explain Twilight Imperium, but I also feel like it's a bit notorious and everyone knows about it, but maybe not. Set in space, you all play as a civilization. There's a big Hex-esque map that you build out. You essentially are negotiating with people, entering combat with people, exploring, settling planets, all of these good things. You're trying to score points. You either play to 10 points or 14 points, depending on the length of the game you want, or the game ends after 10 rounds. So, yeah. But I think that, to be clear, that was 8 players all first time playing it. So that's going to happen a little bit. But yeah, it's very heavy game. There's lots of rule A, subsection B-esque a little bit in it. So you've got to be a bit clued up to keep the game flowing. There is a risk of player elimination and stuff as well, which obviously is a bit of a pain if it's a really long game. But it's definitely an epic game that everyone probably should play at least once just to kind of experience, because it's so like... But I appreciate some people do, but you probably wouldn't want to play it every week.
I mean, I barely want to play it every decade.
Right, yeah.
I have very low opinions on this kind of... The thing is I played it... We've talked about this before. I played digitally, didn't enjoy that experience because the digital interface was terrible. I appreciate that is an problem with the interface so much.
Yes.
Having played Eclipse, which I think is a similar enough in terms of the 4X in space kind of... It gives you... It's like a lighter version of it, right? Having played that and not really enjoyed that experience, I don't want to spend my Saturday playing TI4, frankly. I know you should do these things with open mind, but I also only have so many years left on this planet.
I'm not going to sit here and try and convince you now, mainly because we don't have time for that, but I think there's enough difference between Eclipse and Twilight Imperium that it would warrant its own separate play. I think they are both space games, they're both 4X games, but I think they both have a little hex tiles on it, but I think beyond some of those comparisons, quite radical. How the game plays out is very different, I think.
Yeah, that's true enough. It just doesn't interest me in the slightest. So anyway, we'll move on quickly to a game that does interest me. My number 13. This is a game that is my biggest riser from last time we did this because I played it a very long time ago. It sort of hopped in basically around this list and didn't really go anywhere because it took a long time to play it. This is Orleans.
Ah, nice.
Orleans. So this is a game we are playing at the moment.
We are literally playing at the moment, yeah.
This is a bag builder game in beige France.
It's a game that's screaming for a reproduction or whatever, or deluxe version or whatever, yeah.
A colourful reprint, yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice, pretty art print. But basically, it's a game where you are going to draw workers out of a bag. You're going to put them onto your own individual player boards to do different actions. Some of those actions will be gaining more followers of a particular type, building buildings. And as you gain those followers, you're going to be triggering things like building buildings, moving up a book track, moving up the military track, a bunch of different tracks, effectively, that you're going up and gaining resources and all these sorts of fun things. Random events will happen as the game plays out, and it's a really fun little bag builder. I really like quite Squedenberg, that sort of thing, bag buildery-esque. But this you have a little bit more control over, to a certain degree. There's just a lot of really interesting things going on with it that is quite difficult to explain without having sat down and read the rule books recently, which I haven't, to be fair, for a little while. But it's just good fun.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, actually. I mean, I'm sort of in the sussing out how everything works kind of stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. I'm enjoying a deck builder, a bag builder, they're all kind of the same. I like being able to construct my own thing basically. Yeah. The only bit that I think maybe it doesn't go as far as is, yes, you've got like a bag constructing kind of to it, but like the actions don't change necessarily, if that makes sense. So you're more able to frequently do an action, but it's a bit like I could have just... I'm being very mean about it really now, but I could just be like, I'm picking this action. It could be a worker placement, really.
Yes.
Instead, but I quite like the limitations and balance between those. Obviously, you can tee up a couple of your workers into an action to then later on do it. There's some randomization in there. Like I needed a monk to protect me from. Literally, I think it was the last round we played, to protect me from something bad was going to happen. I've got a tile where if I put a monk on it, I can avoid that. But I have 3 monks in my bag of like 10 pieces or something. I then drew 6 of them and didn't draw any of the monks. So there's a bit of balance in there. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Obviously, we've not completed our playthrough yet, so I have to reserve my final thoughts on it really. But so far, so good.
Yeah, it's good fun. We will have to play some more. Well, we'll play it physically because I think it's a good game. It's a game that plays very nicely physically.
Yes.
Relatively quickly as well. Cool. Number 13. We are speeding through these because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
So, have you done your 13 yet?
I have. It was Twilight Imperium.
You have.
You just didn't want to talk about it.
Yes, that's right. You're right, I forgot it exists. Let's go to number 12. My number 12 is a game that we played not too long ago. Oh, Ross has gone.
I'm back, just close to
Close back.
the cat was wandering in.
There we go. Gotcha. Animals disrupting
Animals,
things.
indeed.
Happens. So, number 12 for me is a game that you and I have played quite a few times together, and it's a game that we played with your son because he liked building pretty patterns.
Yep.
This is Sagrada.
Nice.
So, Sagrada is a very classic dice drafting game where you're just basically drafting some dice and trying to build up stained glass windows in the Sagrada Familia. You will get a window at the start of the game. You'll slot it into your dual or triple layer board. I'm not entirely certain how many layers it is. It's got a lot of them. And you're just going to have different restrictions on where you can place your dice. So you can't have like numbers next to each other. You can't have like colours next to each other because no one wants a stained glass window that's just one big panel of red. And you have some pre-printed restrictions on the boards that you have to try and navigate around. And there's always one person who goes, oh, I didn't want to put a 3 there because there's a 3 here. And it throws their game off entirely. The colours don't quite come out the way they want to. It's a really good little game that requires very little overhead in terms of the rules. Before you just go, okay, this is what you're doing, this is how you do it. There are some tools that you can spend glass beads on to help mitigate the dice in some way.
Yes. And obviously it's a draft as well, right? So you got So it's not like you just got 5 dice and you're rolling and then you're having to kind of make do with what you roll, basically. You're getting the opportunity to either set up for what you want, or stitch someone else over maybe. But you're right, it's really good that there's some mitigation in there with they're like little glass jewels, I guess.
The glass cutting tools, the glass cutting tools, effectively. But you have your own secret objectives as well as 3 public objectives that are around the board. So you can all go, okay, I need to get different numbers in this column, but I also need to score the pip values of yellow dice, for example, or I need to get the highest cumulative value on these particular locations. There's a whole bunch of different expansions. I think there's 4 at the moment. Probably 4 sounds about right.
Yeah.
Where you have different modules that you can just mix in, see how you go, have some fun with it. It's just a really good game. So yeah, Sagrada. Big shout out. I'm looking forward to trying Sagrada Artisans, the legacy game, at some point in the not too distant future.
That'd be good. Nice.
Yes.
My 12.
What you got?
Hey, we've already talked about it a million times. But which one is it? It's Viscount of the West Kingdom.
Nice.
So this is where it's positioned in for me. So yeah, so not dissimilar probably for you with Architects. We kind of talked about it a little bit already. It's got some deck builder components. I think I like that there's lots of variety. Having a minute ago being like Dominion, it's nice because it just does one thing. Viscounts it's nice because it does lots of little things, but enough of them that it feels like, oh, I've actually got choice here, rather than being like, oh, I have to do one of these things, but it doesn't really work into the strategy that I want or the thing that. So you've got a pretty little pony galloping around the edge of the board. You've got like a castle, essentially, I think, in the middle that you're trying to move meeples up. You've got some, I don't know, what else have you got? You've got some, you're moving it back and forth between being a, what's the word I'm after?
Virtuous?
Virtuous, that is the word I'm after. Versus...
no, I can't say that word, but family friendly.
Versus not virtuous, yeah.
Villainous, I guess?
Out of all of the 3, it's the one I enjoy playing the most.
Yeah. You've got this little rondelle that you're basically moving your horse around, effectively, and you've got there's basically the 2 rings for it, so as you play down, it's got this deck builder in slow-mo kind of thing, where you put a card down and it will be in effect for 3 turns, and it will build up the number of symbols that you have of a particular type that help focus into the action. And the actions you can take depend on whether you're on the inside or the outside of the circle. That will change the different actions you can do. You've got putting out buildings, recruiting people, gathering resources, all sorts of stuff, moving your people up in the castle, as you say. It's a really interesting system, and you've got that whole good-evil balance of leading to riches and ruins that has a clash that happens, and when that happens, you get to manoeuvre through the decks a little bit quicker.
You can upgrade
we forgot about
actions as well.
You can upgrade your actions as you go through, because you can take pieces off your board and you can build out, basically you get more free symbols effectively, so you've always got a bonus to them. Yeah, it's a good game. We need to play it more. I've only played it once physically, with more than one person, more than just myself. So we definitely need to give it a few more goes, because there's some expansion stuff in there that I want to give it a go. It's good fun. We'll add it to the list.
I need to actually start making this list. I was thinking about this literally yesterday or early today, maybe, I'm not sure.
I have this list because I've been keeping track, because we talked about it in the last video as being a challenge for next year, maybe.
Yes.
Alright, let's jump into our last one of this list because we've only got about 3 or 4 minutes
sneaking
left.
this in. Nice.
Let's speed it through. Number 11.
Hey, number 11 is Hadrian's Wall, which is
Nice, another Garfield game.
So you can tell we're getting into the, I don't know, the top 11. But you tell we're getting to the top games because I feel like a lot of these now are starting to get a little bit more interchangeable on, because I'm looking at what's coming up and a bit like, oh, actually, this could be here or there or wherever. But Hadrian's Wall, another Garfield game, roll and write, which we know I love, but it's got a little bit of, I don't know, resource management in there as well. So essentially, you are manning a portion of Hadrian's Wall. You are trying to keep the citizens happy and then contribute towards more like a civilized life, but also make sure that the wall is fortified and you have an army to fend off the Picts, basically. So you get 2 cards, you play one of them for an objective which is on them, which scores you points at the end of the games, and then the other one gives you some resources at the beginning of that turn. You then spend your resources to cross or tick or whatever you want to do with your boxes, essentially, which may give you more resources, and then that means you could then put those resources into something else, which gives you different resources, which then you put into this, and that gives you different resources, and you just kind of get this good combo going up. And then you get attacked at the end, and hopefully you've defended yourself enough. Or you can pray, or I guess, no, it's not pray. Oh, it is pray on one of them. Or you can, what's the other one I'm after? Basically just tell the people, don't worry about those attacks which attacked us. I'm just going to placate you with the fact that I'm very charismatic, I guess.
Yeah, you've got the diplomats that can that can basically ward them off, or you can basically say, hey, forget that terrible thing just happened. It was really this guy's fault. Yeah. And that sort of thing.
And there's like some other bits, like you can do like gladiators, you can build temples. There's just quite a lot you're doing. And the main score generator is how far along these tracks you travel. There's 4 tracks, and kind of each area contributes to those tracks in some way.
Yeah, I've already talked about it. I think it's a really good game. I'm looking forward to the Anarchy, which is coming out, which is the follow-up game. So that will be interesting to see how that plays out. My number 11, as we're trying to speed rapidly towards the end, is it possibly falls into the category of too soon. This is Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
I think you're okay now. I think we're far enough
We're
up.
kind of okay. Also, it's been like top 10 game, like top 3 on BGG for quite a long time, so I think we're okay with it. Pandemic Legacy Season 1. I've only just started playing it as of the end of last year. So, basic Pandemic, you know how Pandemic works. You've got diseases spreading around, you're moving around the board trying to deal with those diseases the best you can. But in Pandemic Legacy, things are evolving constantly and changing, and you're having to deal with these different outbreaks and random effects that will permanently change the board for the rest of time. And I'm finding it's a really interesting little system. There's some things that have come up in the last couple of months. We're in May now. For any of those who have played Pandemic, you know what I'm talking about, that thing has happened. And oh boy, is it hard to keep on top of. It is real bad. But it's okay. We're able to, we're coping. We're going to give it another go. We're going to see how we get. We're going to try and get through the entirety of the year. We're probably not going to manage to do it this year, but we'll certainly manage it at some point. Yeah. Because that group, once we finish playing it, we're going to move on to other Legacy games, and we'll see how we do with those. Yeah, I think it was one of the first Legacy games that has... I'm not sure if it or Risk Legacy was first. I can never remember which way around it was.
Pandemic was first. I'm probably going to be wrong now, but...
Yeah, I'll let you find that out.
I'll do some research while you do.
It does that really nice, coherent story of following things through. You can see your progress on the board. And because it's a cooperative game rather than a competitive game, do you at least feel like you're making these decisions together? Was it Risk?
Risk was first. Risk Legacy is 2011.
Oh, wow.
And Pandemic Legacy is 2015, I think it was. Season 1 is 2015. Right. So yeah, it's quite...
Yeah.
Significantly.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of the story plays out, to see whether we are going to be any more successful as the year plays out. I've got a sneaking suspicion we're not, but we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it.
Really like Pandemic. I really like Legacy. I've not played this, but it seems like it's kind of one of the perfect games for like a Legacy components to it, right? Because you've got a map, you've got to do stuff. You could see how you could be scarred following a pandemic outbreak, and that you've resolved it in this area, but I mean, I don't know anything about the game, but the population's more depleted, or something else has happened, or you've had to quarantine, or you've lost a whole city potentially, or something like that. You can see how those things could happen in the real world, but also, so I think that works as a Legacy game.
It might be one that maybe after I finish playing through this copy, I give it a little bit of time, and then you and I sit down
Yeah,
and we
good.
play
Yeah.
Season 1. Because Season 1 is supposedly the best of the 3 that are available.
Nice.
1, 2, and 0, which is weird. But anyway, those are our 11 through to 15 games. So let us know what you think. What games fall into your sections of these lists, and we'll see where they're at. If you like what you see, don't forget to do the like, the subscribe, all the fun
Click the
things,
buttons.
and we'll be back again very soon. We're rambling because we're trying to get this done quickly because, again, time crunch. So until next time, thanks everyone.
Thanks.
We'll see you soon. Bye bye.